Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we explore entertaining and enlightening discussions of the adventure of life and all things good. From science and technology to history and philosophy to leadership and success. We hope to give you a better understanding of the world and skills for everyone to pursue their own adventure.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Bufnagle the podcast, where we talk about all things good in the pursuit of the adventure of life. I'm Harry. I have returned from the ether and my hiatus of floating around in space, in cyberspace, in the real world. And I'm happy to be here with Rafe. How are you?
Harry, I'm great. It's great to see you again. And we've talked a little bit here and there, but never in any detail like we have just the last 10 minutes catching up before recording here. So it's great to have you back. Like I said, it's a great day to be doing a podcast with you. And one reason that is the case is that we have, the world's greatest listeners who have made us, for some strange reason, a global top 10% podcast. As usual, they can reach us at bufnagle@bufnagle.com. Remember to share the love, share the buff, give us a 5-star review, hit subscribe. Hit subscribe. All right. Give us a like, a smiley star, a happy face, whatever that thing is. Tell a friend to listen and you will get a free episode. And you can also click one of those links there in the show notes and you can agree to buy. Well, you can buy Harry a coffee this time, let's say.
Right? Send Jamie a coffee.
Yeah.
She probably deserves it a little bit more than I do.
That would be a good thing too, because, this is, we do this out of the abundance of love in our hearts, but that doesn't. I tried paying my Visa bill with love, and that didn't work. So,
card was declined.
Yeah. Hey, Harry, I talked to today Father Elliot Zach, who did an episode with us back, episode whatever
100
number that was.
Something.
Yeah,
high 100s.
It's in the high 100s about all sorts of questions. Ask the priest. And I told him that we had a very positive response to him being on the show, and asked him if he would want to come back. And he graciously or foolishly agreed to return. So he's going to be returning.
You must have offered a good dinner. Is probably how that worked, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, I did offer him a dinner, and so he's going to come back on the show either in late November or early December is when that show will drop. But if you have questions out there, listener people, if you have questions and you always wanted to know the answer, we'll have the priest on the line. So just send us an email at bufnagle@bufnagle.com, and we will forward your note as anonymously as you would like to Father Zach, and he will answer the question with official Bufnagle imprimatur, as they say, and it will be guaranteed 100% correct. And it will get you straight to heaven or something like that.
Oh, excellent. I'll be there.
Yeah. So we'll be there, and we'll throw the questions at him and watch him squirm with trying to come up with an answer. So today's episode, though, is a little different than that. It is this is something I've been interested in for a long time, ever since hearing about it when I was maybe your age, Harry. And now you actually have one of these strange machines in your home. You have a 3D printer.
I do.
And I'd like to talk about 3D printing, because I know very little about it. And
well, that's good, because you've come to the completely wrong person.
But you make things, right? Do I see it behind you there?
You do see it behind me.
Oh, wow. It's got a big...
It is all hooked up. It actually has its pink filament in right now, because that was the most recent request by a certain nearly 4-year-old.
Pink filament. Okay, so let's start here. Okay, so you have a 3D printer.
I do.
That you purchased recently?
I purchased it sometime over the summer.
Over the summer?
June,
just on a whim? This was your...
On a whim. It was kind of I thought about it. I looked at it. It was cheap enough to justify looking into it, I would say.
And just to play with it and to make...
Yeah, and either make fun little things or make useful things. or make anything in between.
So it makes things, and so it prints.
Right. So it prints in 3 dimensions.
Okay.
So it's not flat. It builds, I guess, in the Z-axis as well. Right.
Okay.
Builds some height, but it takes some time. So I guess it's a 3D printer printing in 4 space.
Oh, because it prints across time, right? Okay. So so if you imagine, if I understand this correctly, I imagine an XY grid on the tabletop, right? And then there's some kind of gantry goes back and forth on that grid and drops little globs of goo, right? I mean, is that what happened?
It does continuous extrusion.
So it has a filament in it, which is like a plastic, like a piece of fishing line.
I would say like plastic fishing line or tubing. It's 1.75 millimeters in diameter.
Okay, so just short of 2 millimeters in diameter. And can you shine light through it? Can you use it for fiber optic cable?
No, you cannot use it for fiber optics.
All right, so it has this filament, and you feed the filament in there. It comes on a spool, right?
Yep.
And so the little machine heats up the filament. It melts, and then it gets pushed out
through a nozzle.
Okay.
Again, with a certain nozzle radius or diameter as well.
Okay.
And it's hot, right? So it's melted a little bit, and there's a fan on it as well. So it hits a heated surface. The fan cools it really quickly, right? Relatively, really quickly.
Yeah.
And it makes a pattern in 3 space, but it has to build up on it.
From the bottom to the top.
From the bottom to the top. So if you would imagine like a pyramid, right? You can make a standard pyramid with a large base and a tippy top relatively easily because everything kind of falls in on itself. But if you were to try to do the opposite with the upside down pyramid, well, now you're going to start running into a couple of issues where you may have overhanging ledges and the filament may not stick to itself enough and it kind of falls over.
Have you had that? Have you built things that are too skinny on the bottom and they tip over? And
I have
you just
a
get
couple
a
of
glob
times.
Of goo?
Yep. And it messes up the entire thing.
And does it make a mess, like it spills out onto the floor and gets in the carpet, or
no? it'll still fall onto the plate, but then it'll make a glob of mess on the plate and mess up the rest of the print.
So this stuff comes out of the filament, goes into the machine, comes out as a highly viscous goo, and when it sticks to it, it cools very rapidly and sticks as a solid, right?
Correct. Yep.
Right. And then you build up a thing. So you showed me some things like a little pony or something, or a frog.
I mean, there's a whole bunch of things. The standard hello world of the 3D print world, which I'm showing you right now, obviously our listeners can't see, is something called Benchy.
Okay. I saw a Benchy today somewhere, and I saw, that's a cute little ship. I wonder why it's called Benchy, but
this is Benchy because he is the benchmark. It's usually the first thing that you print with your 3D printer once you have either adjusted settings or moved it or jostled it or maybe put in new filament or that kind of thing. It's usually a very easy to download file, or it's a pre-existing file inside of the 3D printer. But it does a couple of things. So like you can, obviously our listeners can't see.
So describe Benchy now. Okay. So approximate dimensions.
So Benchy is approximately 2 inches long, maybe half an inch wide. The bow of the boat is maybe 3/4 of an inch to an inch. In the middle is a little captain's quarters with a small steering wheel at the front. And it's got a little plume on top of the captain's quarters.
Like a little smokestack kind of thing.
Like a little smokestack, yeah. And it's got two, and I was obviously not in the Navy, 2 circles at the front of the boat.
Where a chain can go through for the anchor, right?
Correct. On the left and the right. So it does a couple of different things. And there's also what's supposed to be, you can't see this very well, I'm guessing.
Yeah.
There's some print statement on the bottom.
Oh. So like words and stuff?
Like words and letters. So the Benchy, the boat, does a couple of different things. He checks your surface temperature of your plate by verifying what your letters, you should be able to see the letters on the bottom.
Okay. And I assume you can see them.
I can hardly see them. So I would probably have to mess with some settings as far as how far above the plate I begin my print, how far. So I'd probably have to readjust my calibration settings for my height, for my Z axis.
Okay.
I'd probably have to also adjust some wall settings, some vertical and horizontal wall settings in order to make sure those letters come through cleanly on the bottom.
Okay.
Excuse me.
You just dropped Benchy.
I did drop Benchy. It has arches, right?
Okay.
So you can kind of test your printer's ability to join together two vertical
Posts.
right? It also has a gentle curved surface, that inverse surface that we were talking about earlier, and a couple of rounded circles, arches, as well as its ability to go back and forth multiple times.
So Benchy, the benchmark little tugboat, is like the print test page for your printer.
Yes.
Okay.
It takes about 15-ish minutes to print out.
Now, is that pretty speedy? Like, is that a thing that if you would have spent more money, it would go faster?
So maybe you can adjust your printer settings for however fast you want it to print,
But
at risk of other issues.
okay, which would be
so
what?
your filament may not cool down fast enough.
Okay.
So it kind of gets goopy and spreads everywhere.
So then you have Benchy the glob.
Benchy the boat glob.
Yeah. Okay.
You get that kind of issue, or your wall parameters aren't correct. Mostly issues with your extrusion and how it cools down. I would
All right.
say.
So you built Benchy. Is that so? When you got it out of the box, and it says you do this first, quick start guide, hook up. Do you have to hook it up to your computer, or is it ready to go? It's just independent.
No, it's independent. It's ready to go. It technically has Wi-Fi settings on it, so I can send
Oh.
through
Files.
my account that I have with the software.
Okay.
I've never done this, but because I prefer to use a USB drive. But I can send over Wi-Fi certain files, and they'll show up on the printer, and I can print from there.
Okay, that's fun. All right, that's fun. And so you out of the box, yours worked enough to make that little Benchy thing?
It did. It worked out enough to do that. It did a little bottle opener shark.
Bottle opener shark. Okay.
Flexi T-Rex.
Flexi T-Rex. Okay.
Yep. And
all important things in any household in America.
that's right. Very important. So it made little things like that. And then I had to order some more filament because it only came with enough test filament for a couple of things.
Okay, so a spool, and you can get multiple spools, right? Does yours do multiple spool colors at once, or
Mine does not. Mine just does one.
Okay.
And that's it.
So is
but
yours
there are printers out there that do like 4 spools at a time.
At a time? Wow. And then you could, and does it mix the colors then? And then you could take the blue and red and make purple?
Possibly. I'm not sure.
Okay. And I assume that's okay. So this thing costs you in the neighborhood of what?
$250.
$250. Okay. But was it the bottom of the line one, or were there some that are?
It was probably middle of the line.
Middle of the line. And what do you get if you go higher? We talked about spools. And what do you lose when you go lower?
I'm not sure. So there's 2 different types of 3D printers. We should probably start with that. There are filament or PLA style printers, which is the spool.
Okay.
Right, with the extrusion. And then there are also resin 3D printers, where you heat up a hot bed of resin multiple times. I'm not exactly sure how it works.
Oh, when I was working at the orthopedic medical device company, and one thing we did is we made hips, artificial hips and artificial knees. And we didn't 3D print them. But what they did is here's what they did. They took MRIs of, let's say you're going to get an artificial knee put in. Mm-hmm. And so they would take an MRI of your whole knee joint area. And then they would 3D print the end of your femur, the distal end of your femur, and the proximal end of your tibia and your patella. whatever else is needed in there. And they would actually 3D print copies of your bones. Right. And then they would design the machine there's a machine that tells the other machine how to cut away the bone and stuff so that the implant can fit in there. And then they would have that 3D, that they'd have a version of you already made.
Model to practice on.
A model. Yeah. So not to practice, but to set up and calibrate the other machines. So when you go to the OR, everything's all ready to go. And it just cuts away and does all the things, and it's all set up and ready to go. And that thing, I saw it working one time when I was at the in the 3D printing department there in R&D. And I think they had one of these resin things that I think you have a layer, like a really thin layer of like sand. Mm-hmm. And then like a laser goes over the thin layer of sand and melts some of it to the layer that's below it. And the rest of it doesn't get melted. And then they pour another layer on top. And it goes zzz. So every time you have a layer, and these are very, very thin layers, like certainly less than a millimeter thick. And it lays down. And so what happens is you get this at the end. Ours was tall. It was like a foot tall of this box full of granules, but hiding inside the granules are the granules that were, I'm going to say, melted or fused together. And you open the top, you dump out the extra particles, and there in the middle is the end of some guy's femur. And the parts are already inside. And I think that's the resin stuff that they do.
And the major difference between the resin and the PLA stuff, don't ask me what PLA stands for, I'm not sure. Resin has higher resolution.
Okay. So you can make more precise things.
Make really precise things. The precision that I have for my printer generally is about 0.2 millimeters for the nozzle.
Okay, so you can put a glob of goo. You can put five of those per millimeter.
Right.
Okay. In all three directions?
Correct. Yep.
Okay.
And, with a couple of different settings, and that can be modified. I can usually go anywhere from like 0.15 to about 0.3 or 0.4.
Okay. All right. Because I saw, it looked to me when you were holding up Benchy to the camera that he had like little shingles on his roof. Is that right?
He does. Back and forth. I don't know if you can probably see those decently well. Yeah. I have another little model here. It's a little fidget toy spiral. But as you can see here at the top of the spiral, these layers are very close to each other.
Yes.
Right. So that would be the height settings that I have for that particular model.
All right. So do you make your own models? Can you do that? Could you make a little miniature version of you?
I wish. I don't know. So for the most part, I download all of my files. They're called .stl files. Okay. I then have software that's called Cura, and it will convert .stl files to G code, to geometric code.
Is that a standard?
It's a standard 3D printer code, and that'll tell me all of the nozzle settings, all of the printer settings, all of the XYZ settings, in the order in which those settings are placed.
Can you actually see that code? I mean, it's an ASCII file.
If you wanted to pull it out, you can pull it out.
You could change it by hand if you wanted.
Yes.
All right. That's nice and dangerous. We like those sorts of things.
Oh, yeah.
All right. So, and you download these files. Do you pay money for them, or are there a lot of free ones?
You can. I think there's some places where you can pay more money for higher end models, but for the most part, there's a couple of different websites where people post free STL files of random things that they have made.
And I assume they run I would imagine like gamer guys make their little figurines
models or whatever. Yeah, and you can do cookie cutters, which is one thing I have here. A dinosaur footprint cookie cutter.
Oh, look at that. All right. So now you do this with your daughter.
I do. We haven't done it in a little while though, but we used to. There was a certain period of time that lasted for a couple of weeks where we would wake up in the morning around 6 o'clock with Dad. Let's print something. We would scour the internet for a heart or a Pooh Bear or a dinosaur or some small animal. And then we would find the file, I would convert it, and then we would watch it print.
All right. And then while Mom's getting up and getting little brother ready and such.
Yeah, that kind of thing. And it was great until she wanted really, really, really tiny animals.
Like,
which because I don't have a great printer and I don't have great resolution, there's a certain resolution spec I can't really get down towards. So oftentimes we would download the file and she would, it shows you a 3D rendering of the file before you print it off and convert it to that geometric code. She would look at it and say, oh, no, that's too big. It's going to take too long. Because she understands that the bigger the file, the longer it's going to take. Mm-hmm. And she would want things to be done in about 15 minutes.
Okay.
So there's this real sweet spot of what really simplistic thing can I print that I can also scale down, that I can also print quickly.
Can you make me a set of non-transitive dice? I bet look up. You know what non-transitive dice are, right?
I'm not sure. Explain it.
Oh, okay. So let's say you have 4 dice, A, B, C, and D, and die A beats die B with probability greater than a half. So it has some numbers on there. So the probability that if I throw A and you throw B, the probability that I will win is greater than 50%. Mm-hmm. Right. Now you could do that pretty easily. You could, if you think about what numbers are on the sides, you could do that. But then B is designed to beat C with probability greater than 50%. C is designed to beat D with probability greater than 50%. And D is designed to beat A with probability greater than 50%. So it's not transitive. It's that like,
right. Yep.
So if I let you pick first and I know which die you picked, I just pick the next one up from that and I can always win. It's, I don't know. It's a cheating.
Boy, you're real fun at parties, aren't you?
Yeah. No idea. I have no idea why I don't get invited anymore. So, all right. So you buy these little files but you haven't made anything that's of value. I mean, like you haven't.
No, I haven't. I have printed off. I have card game storage tins that I've printed off. So have actually been useful for me.
Okay.
Those take about 8 hours to print.
How big are they?
They are the entire length of the print surface.
Which is what, 18 inches?
Oh no, probably 8 inches maybe.
Oh, 8 inches. Okay. And then
I think it's 250 millimeters approximately.
250 millimeters? Is that 25?
8 to 10 inches. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. But now you keep your little cards in there.
Yeah. And I can print as many as I need to.
Okay. So there's so you can hit the button and you come back at home at night, come back from work and it's done, hopefully without screwing up. If the cat didn't jump on it or something.
Right.
Is that an issue?
The power cord. No. The only issue is Andrew coming in and whacking it with his hands.
No,
Scotty has learned that she knows that the surface is hot.
Okay.
So she knows not to touch it while it's going.
Okay. Well, okay. So we have, as you know, this gigantic collection of Lego, and there has been one time where I actually used the Lego for a practical purpose. Did you know
That's
this?
It? A total of once?
That I can remember. It was actual practical. So I was doing something in the car, in the engine of the car. I forget what it was, changing an air filter or a oil filter or something. Anyway, I dropped the 10 millimeter socket into the engine, not into the insides of the engine, but into the
engine bay.
And it didn't fall out onto the garage floor beneath. And when I went looking for it with a flashlight, I could see it down in there. But there was no way to reach it I couldn't get my hand up there. I couldn't get my hand down there. So I took some of those Lego Technic beams and I strung them together to make a long stick. And at the end of the Lego Technic beam, I put one of those Lego magnetic train couplers. Mm-hmm. So I put a magnet on the end of a stick and I reached in with that little stick. I reached down in there, grabbed the socket with the magnet and pulled it out. So,
I can think of one other time you've had a practical purpose with Lego.
Oh, do tell.
is when your volume knob on your truck fell off
that's
because
true.
it was so old, and you put a little 2x2 round block with the 2x2 round plate with the flames on it.
Yes, I did. Yes, I did.
With an axle, and it fit just about perfectly
Yeah.
into that hole where the old volume knob was. And I think you had that on there for the rest of the time the truck was around.
Yeah, the truck eventually, when it got to 20 years, it was there were no lights on the dash, and a lot of the knobs had come off and had been replaced with Lego equivalents. And did I tell you about the large snake skin I found wrapped around the engine? Did I tell you that?
I think so.
Yeah, a good at least 6 feet of snake skin. I would have loved to see that snake, but I just found the skin. All right, but you haven't done anything yet with the 3D printer. But I think you could count the cookie cutter as a real thing because your wife loves.
Oh, sure,
cookies.
yeah. And I've also attempted to start printing out modular pegboard.
Oh, for the
workspace out in the garage.
Okay, well, because that's like I said, I'm going to have you make me a thing for my miter saw that will give me a zero clearance, and
Now, the good thing is I have a little bit of software on my work computer that does 3D modeling, and I am by no means a CAD expert, but I have just enough knowledge to be partially dangerous.
Okay, you need a little bit more knowledge to get even more dangerous.
Yeah,
or less. You're going to have to go one direction or the other to be more dangerous.
Yeah, but I have enough. What I have done before is I've been able to email myself files, those .stl files, convert it into the software program to convert it into G-code. So I have done that before, so I know it is possible. So I could technically design things and print them. I'm just not much of a designer.
Well, I'm going to have to get you on. Because there was a guy I was reading about what he was doing and watching his YouTube channel, and he made some pieces for his miter saw that are exactly the pieces I want to make. So I will, if I get them, I can just email you the STL or the what's it called? G code?
G code. Just email me the STL because then I can convert and make my own G code that's appropriate for the printer.
Now you wouldn't make something for my shop in pink, would you?
No, I have some extra gray sitting on the shelf.
Now back in the day though, this was called rapid prototyping was the idea with the 3D printing ideas. Like you could make something pretty quick that would take you forever to run through the tool and die guys and get an actual piece made. But all right, so you can make things up to about I'll just call it 8 to 10 inches, right? And
yeah.
And the precision you said down to 0.2 of a millimeter. Mm-hmm. And can you print a Lego block or something close by? Could you?
I probably could. Yeah.
See if you do that and test them out, because there's a Lego piece I would like you to make for me. It's a 1x2 plate with only one stud, but not in the middle, just on one of the sides. So it's half plate, half tile. Mm-hmm. And now they make a 2x2, which is half plate and half tile.
They do. Yep.
Yes, but not a 1x2. And so I would like that. So all right, so you've had this now for give or take
4 months.
4 months. Okay. So are you going to do you see this as like, are you going to stick with this for a while and then eventually be like, okay, that was fun, I'm going to move on to learning how to play the piano? Or is it going to be a thing like, you know what, I really would like to upgrade to this next level because that'll give me the ability to do.
I don't see myself doing any upgrades. I think it works for exactly what I want it to work on.
Okay.
But I do need to learn more. So there's a whole lot of different things that happen. There's other things that happen on the software side of things that help you with printing. There's things like wall height or types of infill or support settings or nozzle settings or heat settings or fan settings or speed settings. And all those things impact how the final print turns out.
Okay.
So yeah, it's really fun to do it or to have a different type of printer, but that wouldn't prove useful until I actually knew what I was doing with my settings.
So I have to imagine that there are pieces of that there are programs out there that will take your design file and then, in a certain sense, optimize it along those routes, right? I mean, because I know, like for other computer kinds of things, like CNC machines for routing and for like, it matters if you do this piece first or this piece first. You have to grind away this. What you're doing is opposite of what I would do with a CNC routing machine. I would start with a solid piece of wood and remove things to make something. And you're starting with empty space and you're adding stuff to make something. And obviously you can't put the second floor on. You can't put the second floor on until you put the first floor on.
Yes, that's correct.
Right? Yep. So there has to be some proper sequencing of these events that take place on there. And there's got to be.
That's usually what the G code does. So you'll do everything. You'll do your settings, and then you will produce the geometric code from that.
And it does that. It kind of does that automatically.
It does. Yep.
All right. So, 3D printing with Harry there at the Buff headquarters in North Carolina. Well, right. Should I expect a little, a little plastic miniature? You know what okay, here's a project for you. You got to make bufnagle frogs.
I think I've made a couple of frogs.
And I'm not talking like a plain thing with the frog engraved on it. I'm talking like render up in conjure in your head what that frog would look like in 3 space, our logo frog, and see if you can make a buff frog for all of us for Christmas. That's what you need.
It is not impossible. But I don't think it's plausible.
All right, I understand. That's all. It's all good. All right. Well, anyway, thank you. It's good to have you back, and look forward to continue our conversations as we have done in the past. For the rest of you out there, you know the spiel: seek the good, live virtuously, and flourish, and enjoy the adventure of life.
It's going to be a great day.